Here are some crochet tips and tricks for if you want to do more freehand crochet instead of following patterns whilst I do my makeup. I've never done this before, so I will be looking in the mirror. Number one is you're probably not gonna like this, but if you do a gauge swatch, you can do anything. Let me explain. If you do a 4-inch gauge swatch and you've got 10 stitches equals 4 inches, for example, you can work out how many stitches you need to do. So if you wanna make something that's 40 inches, you would obviously do 10 times 10 because 10 stitches is 4 inches. So 40 inches would be 100 stitches. Or if you wanted 8 inches, you would just double it, which would be 20. This is actually more handy in knitting just because with crochet, like you obviously can see your work as you're doing it, whereas with knitting, it's a little bit harder sometimes. But just bear that in mind because obviously depending on what you're making, that can really come in handy. It's the same for the height as well. If you've got 10 rows equals 4 inches, then 20 rows is going to equal 8 inches. That's how we grade patterns. That's how we kind of work everything out and are able to design something as we go. Another thing you can do is if you're making, say, a jumper, base it off of a jumper you already have and you know you love. When I started writing patterns, I would use pieces of clothing that I already had and then use that to define like the shape and stuff of things. As you go, you learn. So don't be afraid to make mistakes because you learn the most when you make mistakes, as frustrating as it is. When I was younger, I used to just make stuff and I didn't used to worry about what if it doesn't work out. I used to just do it for fun. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, lesson learned. That is a tip in and of itself. Like a lot of people say, oh, I don't feel ready or I feel too scared. And it's like, but what are you actually scared of? I know sometimes it can feel like you've wasted time, but it's never a waste of time because when like the way that I have become the designer that I am is through trial and error and just trying things and seeing what happens and just having fun and experimenting with things. And things don't always turn out perfect, but then the next time it'll be better than the first time. But yeah, definitely using something that you already know that you like to kind of like set the shape of whatever you're making. I still do this. For example, for the scallop sweater, the oversized slouchy sweater, I actually originally in 2020 when I made that, I had a jumper that I loved the sleeves of. So when it came to making the sleeves, I literally just laid out the jumper on the floor that I liked, made sure that the taper was the same as the jumper that I loved. And I also wanted the sleeves to be tight, but I wasn't sure exactly how to achieve that without them being too tight or anything. So I just kind of like used another jumper I had as inspo. Another way you can quite easily start to not use patterns, especially if you're making something basic, like just start off with like the most basic jumper. You can either use a measuring tape or you can use your actual body to like help you. So like I know a lot of knit designers will like, if they're knitting a jumper like top down, they will try that on as they go. I actually have the Breezy Beach dress pattern is a pattern that's based off of your body measurements. So what you do is you measure the widest part of your body. You either make your beginning chain like fit around your body or you measure with a measuring tape and then go off of that, which helps if you're making it for someone else, to be honest. Like if they give you their measurements, you can go off of that. If you have a gauge, you can easily do that. Don't be afraid to frog. I've learned this the hard way. I used to just like keep going and I'd be like, it'll be fine. It won't be fine. Like if it needs frogging and you know it needs frogging, just do it and you'll be so glad you did when you kind of like fix whatever you need to fix. Don't be afraid of trial and error. Like what have you actually got to lose if you just give something a try? To me, that is kind of the only way to learn. Like you can learn through other people's patterns. There's only so much you can learn through other people's patterns before you kind of have to take the leap into the next phase. And if you don't want to create stuff freehand, you don't have to. Some of my best designs came when I was actually so beginner that I just like had no fear and I just went for it. And it's crazy because like now I'll have something in my head and like it should work and it won't or whatever, and I sometimes get in my head about it because obviously I'm doing it as a job, whereas before it was just like, let's see if I can make a jumper. Then I just did it, and the actual patterns weren't the best, which is why I'm like rewriting the oversized simple sweater pattern at the minute, because like the design was there, the grading and the pattern writing and that wasn't as good. But again, it's trial and error. Like my first patterns are never going to be as good as the patterns that I'm making now because you have to start somewhere. Just start before you're ready. That is the key.